People often ask Angie and I, when is the best time to sell? And our answer is almost always, when is the best time for you? But there are a few times a year where you can really take advantage of the stock levels. Now, one of those times is winter, because we often see stock decrease by about 50% from its peak, and we see buyers decrease by around about 10%. So you're working with a similar pool of buyers, but far less stock competing on the market. And one of the keys to using this strategy to your advantage is having a property where you do still get some sun in winter. Now, there are some places in Wellington where that's just not possible. But if you can get some sun and keep your house nice and warm, then it can be a really beneficial time to sell.
I think it's also worth pointing out, if you're selling a property that is vacant, it's really important to keep the power on at the property over this time so that the heat pump can be running. And often we will speak to clients about whether we can have the heat pump even set to a particular temperature during the campaign, so that if we arrive around with buyers, no matter what the weather is doing outside, we can step inside and it's lovely and snug. I think a lot of our homes do look best in spring and summer, and so that is when most people sort of feel is going to be the best time for them to sell. And without a doubt, most of the outdoor areas and having the sun higher in the sky and everything is great. But when you actually look at what the potential upside is to coming on in winter, when you have fewer competing properties on the market, there is a really strong argument for coming on and going against the flow of traffic, I suppose.
Yeah, we get weekly data at Low & Co for the open home numbers, and we often see that the average number of groups per open home can go up in winter because you do have so many less competing properties. But still, people are still looking to buy a house in winter.
While it might go counter to how you feel you should present your property, given that it does always look sort of that much better when the sun is shining and it's summer, buyers love looking through homes when the weather is a bit rubbish. Because if they love a property when it's a bit grey and wet and nasty outside, they're probably going to love it when the sun returns. So actually it's perfect buying weather, even though for the rest of us we might think it's all a bit nasty.
And if you're watching this and you're thinking that none of this matters to me because I can't sell my property in winter because it gets no sun at all, there is another sweet spot that we find that's really good to come on, and that's in kind of mid-January Wellington anniversary weekend time period. And that's because a lot of people have conversations about selling over the Christmas break. And then when, they get back from holidays, they've got to talk to an agent, they've got to get their photos done and do all these things to come to the market. But if you can get that done before you go off on your break, then you can come on nice and early and stock levels are still quite low.
And we see this in all of the open home numbers, right throughout the year. There's a real peak in January when stock levels are low, and then a peak through winter as well. So hopefully that gives you some direction as to when the best time might be to sell your home.